Stepping Up to the Plate on BCTV is presented by Smoker & Company and One Source Business Solutions. Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to our Stepping Up to the Plate podcast series with Big Vision Foundation. Milestone podcast, and I am joined by our producer and one of my mentors, Toni Reece, and this is the final episode of Stepping Up to the Plate with Big Vision Foundation, and it's our 267th podcast. So, Toni, before I completely turn the reins over to you, did you ever think when we sat down and first started doing this podcast in 2013 that we would have knocked out 267 episodes?
No.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
No, and if you remember, we started in the podcast studio was in a hotel room.
Yep, in the Crown Plaza.
And at the Crown Plaza, and in room 204, I think. And we sat there, and that is where we started for the first 2 years, I think, we were in a hotel room doing this podcasting. And here we are in downtown Reading, 260 plus episodes later. Yeah. Great stories you've told and a great body of work, and I'm honored to have been part of it.
Definitely honored to have you part of it as well.
Thank you.
So at this point, I'll kind of roll it over to you and let you run with this finale.
Well, we're gonna tell a story here, aren't we? We're gonna tell a story of how this organization, which we've told 267 episodes worth, of the impact that this organization has had in this community. So why would we do anything different in this last episode, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is the last episode, which means something's changed, something's closing. Doesn't mean the work is closing or 30 years of work goes away, because that stands the test of time.
Right.
But something's happened. So you tell your audience what's transitioned here.
So a couple episodes ago, you and I spoke, and we talked about the change that was happening within my personal life, that I was stepping down as president of the Big Vision Foundation, and that we were at that point looking for a management partner to take over the operations side of the facility and all that sort of stuff. And that really all stemmed from a long-range strategic plan that we did at the beginning of 2019. Everything with the exception of me stepping down, that wasn't actually part of the plan. That's something that kind of grew into as the season went on, and I started feeling like I was being pulled in a different direction. But the one thing that was very clear in our long-range strategic plan is that the mission of the Big Vision Foundation was confusing. We did a lot of stuff, which there was nothing wrong with that. But it was tough for people to really clarify, are we a organization that runs, youth sports tournaments and a youth sports complex for money, and are we an organization that does community service? Are we an organization that serves youth? Are we an organization that serves underprivileged youth? And the answer to all those questions was yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still confusing, and we who were, deep in the weeds with it understood and seemed very clear to us. But the general public, it wasn't very clear. So, the objective for us to go out and find a management partner was really to clarify what the organization was going to be doing moving forward. And that's really, the way we've kind of morphed and evolved is, to really clearly identify the organization as an organization that provides opportunities in youth sports for kids without means. And then we're still tying a community service, factor to that. So, all of the operations of everything we have turned over to a management partner, Ultimate Events and Sports Management Company. So they'll be running tournaments and our teams and all that sort of stuff. And the foundation will really exist solely to provide scholarships for players who, again, wouldn't have the opportunity to play youth travel sports if it wasn't for, the work that we'll continue to do. And again, that's something we've always done. And we introduced our Work Hard, Play Hard program, a little over a year ago. So it's just really streamlining what we're doing as an organization.
Mm-hmm. So again, you're keeping the legacy alive. But how does this all feel to you when you look at what you've crafted, right? How's it working for you?
I'd say it's mixed emotions, at times. I'm anxious and excited to, get on to my new journey, but this was 30 years, worth of my life, 60% of my life I've spent with, Berkshire Baseball and Softball and Big Vision Foundation. So there's definitely I don't know the right word that I'm looking for.
It's like a melancholy.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, just there's so much, right? But Dan, and you and I've talked about this off mic, but the body of work doesn't change.
No, not at all. Not at all. And that's, when we had our banquet back in December and, had several, of my old players that were there, to really kind of put that into perspective was, humbling to say the least. When you got, again, guys that you hadn't seen for 10, 15 years. And again, now they're grown up and have kids and, they're talking to you about the impact that you had on their lives. Nothing can ever take that away. So, it's definitely a mixed bag of emotions, as we kind of finalize the transition here. But I'm really excited that I think the organization, the foundation, will actually be able to even broaden its reach from just, providing opportunities for kids within Berks County. I think there's really an opportunity here to go well beyond county and even state lines with kind of the new direction of the foundation. So, we're working through that with our board and, really looking at what the future looks like for Big Vision Foundation without, managing a sports complex and running teams and all that stuff that really did, it was great work, but it was really intensive work as well, where this, again, it's just it's a real razor sharp mission and focus to be able to provide opportunities for these kids who would not have opportunities. And, the one thing that we're still doing is all the scholarships that will be provided these kids will have a community service component tied to them. So, the kids will have to, as they're applying for a scholarship, give proof of what community service they had done. And, what we didn't want to do is just be a handout service. We want the kids to feel like they've got some skin in the game. So that I think at that point, if, you're playing on a team that, would normally cost your parents $1,000 a season to play on, I think you take a little bit more value in it if you had to put a little bit of work into it to get that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So. I want to know. I'm going to come back to that in a second because it's amazing, but that you've been doing that anyway, right?
Yep.
So if you were to, I'm putting you on the spot, but if you were to just talk about a couple, maybe two of the biggest takeaways for you with this experience, these 30 years, what have they taught you?
Well, I think number one is resilience, because it, hasn't always been a smooth road for us by any stretch of the imagination. But, by the same token, for me personally, I always still focused on my why, that at the end of the day, it wasn't about Dan Clouser, wasn't even about, Berkshire Baseball and Softball Club or Big Vision Foundation. It was about the kids that we served. In my office, I would, I had a little bulletin board there that I would have a lot of people write a little, some sort of inspiration to me when they'd come in. I stole that actually from Eric Savage, so I got to give him a little shout out as he's out in Hawaii. But at the top of that board, I always had why, because I wanted to never forget that, why I was really doing it. And on the days that got difficult, I'd have to look to my left and look at that board and, remember that. So I definitely think resilience, is probably one of the biggest takeaways. And then, also just, always remembering, to look at the positives in things, which isn't always easy for me. Actually, it's really difficult for me at times. When it seemed like we were in the middle of a storm, you always have to still think of, what, it could be a lot worse. There's people out there battling cancer. There's people out there who don't have a bed to sleep in tonight. People who don't know where their next meal is coming from. So all in all, whatever I was going through was pale in comparison to what many other people are fighting, every day for. So I think those are the two biggest takeaways: resilience, and again, always finding the positive in every situation that we're in.
Well, your podcast is a very popular podcast. After all these episodes, you have a major following. So people that will continue to listen to this, though they search through the episodes, and people are going to be inspired by those after 30 years and everything that you have been through personally, professionally, to come away with those two takeaways. That's amazing. The other thing that I'm hearing is that what you started and grew for 30 years is still going to stay in place.
Absolutely.
And that is whether you were playing the game or behind the scenes or whatever you were doing, it was all about the kids and teaching them life lessons through baseball, correct?
Yep.
And how to be a good citizen and a good community member. And you did that. And you created the foundation, and that will continue to do that through the community service. To me, that legacy, and you've really, the way to look at this is to take that whole body of work into this next step of your life. I just got chills. That's amazing on where that can go and what that looks like for you in the future. So I think that's amazing, and I think you've inspired a lot of people, not just kids. So I commend you and I congratulate you, and I am so looking forward to the stories of your future because they're just going to be too cool.
Absolutely. So we'll wrap up here, and again, it's hard to believe that number 267 was the last one that we did. So I want to remind people, to again always check out bigvisionfoundation.org. Even though I will not be there hands-on, it is the organization is being left in great hands and will continue to thrive and strive. And for those of you who enjoyed listening to these podcasts, there is another podcast that is to be launched here soon as well, which I'm pretty excited about. And that podcast will talk about my wife and I's journey and the different people that we meet throughout there, and helping to tell their stories and the things that they're going through. So I think that'll be very inspirational as well. So it's the end of one chapter and the beginning of a new one. So as you are wrapping up listening to Stepping Up to the Plate, you'll want to check out wherever you listen to podcasts, and be on the lookout for many little people in many little places. The story of the journey of my mother's son is the next podcast, which will be premiering shortly. So, Toni, thanks for everything, and love being a part of this.
Way to go, Dan.
Thanks.
Hi there, I'm Toni Reece, and I am so excited to introduce to you a brand new podcast series with two of my favorite people, Dan and Sandy Clouser. They are on a new journey, and they're going to be documenting that journey of their life through this podcast series that will be called Many Little People. I can't wait to hear about this. Hi, Dan. Hi, Sandy.
Hi.
Hi, Toni.
How are you guys? Are you excited about this?
Yes.
Absolutely. All right. So, what the heck is going on? What are you doing?
So in a couple months, we will be embarking on a journey, a literal journey. We're selling our house and all our belongings and buying an RV and loading the dog up in it and ourselves, and we're just going to travel around. And the cool part of this new podcast is in those travels, the people we meet, we're going to help tell their stories, similar to what you've been doing for so many years, telling people's stories who may not have the opportunity to have those stories told otherwise. And as I said a little bit in the intro, the reason behind that is really, there's so many people out there doing so many things, and a lot of times they don't get recognition. And I know that's, most of us who are out there, doing work that matters aren't doing it for recognition. But by the same token, it's nice to get a shout out every once in a while as well. So, these could be famous people that we meet along the way. They could be, homeless people that we meet along the way. But I think everybody's got a story to tell, and giving them the opportunity to tell that is going to be pretty exciting for me. It's something that my mom did during her journey, and she didn't have the technology and social media to be able to shout it from the rooftops the way we do in 2020 and beyond. So I think it's after she'd passed away, and we looked through her albums and read letters that people had written to her. I just got to thinking that this would have been really cool to be able to see that come together in real time. I mean, she volunteered at Ground Zero. She helped with hurricane relief efforts, and I could just imagine her walking around with a cell phone and a microphone talking to some of these people that she met. So we'd gone to see her in 2002 for Mother's Day up at Ground Zero, and it was still one of the most remarkable experiences of my life. And I think Sandy will agree, she was there as well.
It was very heartwarming.
Yeah, just seeing how she interacted with people, and everybody in the tent and everywhere we went called her Mom. Nobody called her Loretta. So I think being able to keep her legacy alive, and meet some of those people, and like, this is really something that's out of my comfort zone, because I'm not I'm an introvert by nature. So for me to just walk up to somebody and say, hey, I check out this cell phone, I want to talk to you, and then put it out on the internet for everybody to listen to, isn't extremely comfortable for me. But I didn't think it'd be all at once.
But I think our journey's going to meet some interesting people that maybe just need a hug.
Absolutely. Isn't that going to be the most fulfilling thing, to be sitting in front of people that you may not think want to tell their story, but once they go and you just ask that first question, what a gift you're going to give them.
Right.
So that's awesome.
They'll open up then and just talk to us.
Are you looking forward to that?
I have some fear, but I think it's just fear of change. I am looking forward to it, I guess, deep down. And until everything gets settled, I'll be fine. It's just the whole start of it.
It's just getting there, right?
Yes.
But can you see yourself in the seat of the RV with Dan and the dog and your belongings pulling away?
But I'm not driving it.
Yeah, there you go.
He's got the driver's seat for sure.
Oh my gosh. So where's this journey going to take you? Where are you starting? Or do you even know?
I think we know.
We don't know. And I think that's kind of the beauty of, of the plan, is that there doesn't have to be that much of a plan.
And the states are all of them. there's something special in every state, I'm sure.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
it's one of the things when my mom called me and told me she was doing this. She, a couple of her friends had just gotten back from, vacations to Europe and the Bahamas and Mexico and stuff, and they were, telling her about how great it was and everything. And she said, she just got to thinking, she was, God has given us a beautiful country right here in our own backyard, and most of us die without seeing the vast majority of it. So she was like, so I'm going to do it. And, I never really, I now wish I would have asked her more about why she did it. My mom was a little, off the edge anyway, a reborn hippie, so to speak. And,
She's a great person, and you can learn a lot from her.
yeah, but so I just kind of took it at face value that it's what she wanted to do. But now I wish I would have asked her a little bit more deeper, as to what pulled her in that direction. She was working a really good job at the time, and just decided that she was going to do this. And like I said, that if there's a regret I have, it's not asking her more about why she wanted to take that journey, other than just seeing the country, because it was definitely deeper than that, I know for sure.
Well, you may get those answers though through your own travel.
Yeah, and I think this past almost a year ago now, I drove to Dallas, and then from Dallas drove to Louisiana and back home, and I was just going down there for a baseball coaches convention in Dallas, and then went over to Louisiana and spent a couple days with Jenny Finch, and then drove home. And I think I hit 14 states in that trip, and I actually took my time on that trip, more so than most other trips. It was always about, hey, we have to be here by this time, and I had to be reminded a little bit to take my time, because on my way I left on New Year's Day, and before I got out of Pennsylvania, a very nice, polite state policeman pulled me over and told me I was going a little too fast. And it's funny, I was telling him that I was driving to Dallas, and I was going down there for a coaches convention, and he he liked baseball, so we started talking baseball a little bit, and he gave me a ticket for doing 61 in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. But truth be told, I was going a little bit faster than that. And when he handed me the ticket, he just said, Mr. Clouser, it's going to take you a while to get to Dallas. He goes, so do me a favor. He goes, it's getting dark. You're heading into whitetail country here. Slow down a little bit, because the last thing you want to do is hit a deer on your way to Dallas. I'm like, thank you very much, sir. And I think that was a little bit of my mom saying, hey, enjoy the journey, so.
Stay in the moment.
Yeah.
Stay in the moment. And we don't get a chance to do that very often, do we?
No.
Are you looking forward to exercising that muscle, to be able to just be present right in that day, right in that moment?
Yes, I am.
Is that something that comes easy to you now?
I'll
no,
speak for her
but
and say no.
you know what? I think I'm easing into it a little bit, just a little bit.
Okay. And when you ease into it, how does it feel?
It feels nice. It does.
Imagine being fully in it.
But then, when I do ease into that relaxing state, I want to go out and walk and enjoy nature too. So that's going to be a lot with these trips, and just to get out and enjoy the beauty out there, mountains and whatever.
That's awesome.
I know one thing, the cold is starting to bother us here, so we definitely want to go warm places.
Yeah.
You could time all that, right?
Yes. We'll definitely be in the south in the winter months, and the north in the summer months.
All right, so you are going to be not only telling the stories of people that you're meeting along the way, right? But I would also imagine that you might be doing some monologues along the way about your experience.
Yeah.
And, keeping it real. What was it like today? What was it? Where did you go? What did you see? How did it feel? And I think we can all be inspired by that and learn from that, because, You said it's out of your comfort zone, but my gosh, your courage, your bravery, and what you're looking to do. And you lead forward with wanting to give an opportunity for people to tell their story. You're not leading forward with, my wife and I are changing up our lives, for ourselves. You lead for others. So that's just what you guys do. And I can only imagine the lives that you are going to impact along the way. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's going to be very cool.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's I'm nervous about this as well. I probably don't show it as much as she does at times, but I'm incredibly excited too, because the people we'll meet, the stories that we'll get to tell, and just again having the courage to, like, we could sit here all day long and come up with reasons why we shouldn't do this, but at the end of the day, we only live once, and it's something, we both worked a lot in our lives, and
I won't miss that.
and the other thing, for if anybody's out there thinking about doing this, like, we are far from wealthy, so it's not something that you've got to, stash away a ton of cash to do this. I mean, I'm going to continue to be working on the road doing coaching workshops for Positive Coaching Alliance. And in this day and age, there's so many opportunities to actually work remotely. And our one daughter got me a book after we first told the family what we were doing, called I'm going to mess up the title to an extent, but in essence, it's a beginner's guide to, living in an RV full time. And I was amazed that in this book, there's actually 1 million people in the United States that live full time in an RV.
Wow.
And I was astonished by that number.
It is amazing.
And, the fact that we'll be 1,000,001, hey,
And something
let's
caught
do
your
it.
eye. What was it, Sandy?
You can make it happen.
You can, and you are. It's right in front of your face. You are making it happen. Well, I can't wait to hear these stories of the many little people that you're going to meet, and I can't wait to hear your stories, because this is going to be really, really amazing. So, stay tuned, folks, for Many Little People with Dan and Sandy Clouser. Good luck to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Toni.